Ever spent hours on a mixdown for it only to sound worse than when you started? Let me save you some pain. These are the top 5 mixdown mistakes that beginners make time and time again, and I'll show you exactly how to avoid them. I've coached just under 300 minimal deep tech producers, and no matter what stage you're at, these 5 mistakes are typically what's holding them back from having that pro sounding mixdown. Fix them and your tracks will instantly sound more professional. Oh, and if you want my mixdown cheat sheet, then stay around to the end of the video where I'll show you the exact list that I go by for every single mix. Mistake 1. Obsessing over plugins instead of volume. Most producers think that their favorite new expensive plugin's gonna save them. Whether that's Soothe, FabFilter Pro Q4, RC20, they think that's gonna save their mixdown and really take it to the next level. Unfortunately, from my experience, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. Most producers throwing on these plugins have no idea how to use them, and they end up with an insanely long mixdown chain, which is completely unnecessary and ruining their sound. But what actually matters? Well, 2 things: sample selection and the correct volumes. We've all heard the saying, you can't polish a turd. And music is exactly the same. If you have a bad sample to start with, how on earth do you think you're going to make it sound better with all these fancy plugins? The answer is you can't. Just change sound to begin with, make sure you're collecting high quality samples, and that will help level up your music like no other plugin. The second part to this is volume balance. Balancing the levels correctly within your mix actually helps carve out space without even touching an EQ. As I mentioned previously, stay around to the end and I'll show you my cheat sheet guide for this. And I know a few of you may be thinking, I don't even have any of these fancy plugins that you're talking about, and I don't even know how to use the stock Ableton ones. Don't worry, I've got your back. I've just released a brand new beginner's mixdown course inside my education community, Serotonin Studio. It's a 6-part series showing you exactly how to work through a mixdown as a beginner from start to end using no fancy plugins, just stock, simplified so anyone can understand it with a basic knowledge of Ableton, and I'm sure it's going to help level up your productions, getting them club ready. If you're interested, you can go to the first link in the description. You can sign up to Serotonin Studios, watch the beginner's course, any of our other courses including track to release series, track to scratch series, track breakdowns, intermediate mixdown course, and many more. Make sure you join an ever-expanding community within Serotonin Studios to find producers just like yourself. Mistake number 2, mixing without a proper setup. Now, I'm not talking about a fancy studio setup, I'm actually talking about your Ableton setup. What I often find when I'm mixing down other people's tracks is they have a list of unnecessary plugins that they've implemented in the production stage, which is not needed within the mixdown stage. The way you want to think about this is, in your production stage, your creativity flows and whatever works, works. And in the mixdown stage, it's much more analytical and you need to think through your processes to get the most from it. What I suggest doing is setting yourself up for a good session by running through your project, taking any effects off the master channel that may be altering the sound, bringing all your groups to 0 to get a good starting point to level out the mix, bouncing down a section of a track so you can do a before and after to clearly see that you're going in the right direction. This setup is crucial to having that next level mix, and trust me, if I don't do it, my mixes never sound as good and I always have to work back through them. Mistake 3, ignoring gain staging. Have you ever put a plugin on one of your channels and thinks, wow, this makes such a difference? Well, the truth is, it probably doesn't make that much of a difference and it just makes it louder. The thing is, the human ear typically thinks anything that's louder is actually better, but most of the time, that's not the case. That's why you really need to start staging as a beginner to intermediate producer to actually learn to see if the plugin is making a difference to the sound. It's really easy to do, you just need to match the levels of the before and after of whatever effect you're applying, and then you can quickly dot between the two at the same volume to see if it enhances the sound. I can guarantee you most of the time it doesn't actually enhance the sound at all and you're just lying to yourself. Mistake number 4, processing in solo. Let's just stop for a minute and think. How do we listen to music as a whole? So when you mix down, why do you just focus on one sound at a time? It makes no sense. You're just wasting your time and not actually getting a good sounding track. You're just getting a good sounding element. This is a really easy fix. All you just need to do is start focusing more on groups and then work it into the whole track to get a much better sounding result. For example, when you're mixing down your hats, process and do the hats as a collective instead of going through each one individually, and make sure that you don't spend too much time on solo, on the group, and to give it context with the rest of the track. You'll be surprised how many adjustments of an EQ will do in solo mode, but when you give it context with the whole track playing, a lot of times you don't need to do anything. Mistake number 5, overkill on the master chain. This one infuriates me. As I previously mentioned, I've worked with nearly 300 producers now, and at least half the time I see this happening. Producers slamming on effect after effect on their master chain, thinking they're making it sound better because YouTuber A, Y, and Z told them to, and in fact, they're just ruining their track completely. Let's face it, mastering is a completely different skill set, and many of us still need to work on just the fundamentals of producing. A good mindset I always think about is I want to be a producer who can mix and master, not a mastering engineer who can produce. So with that in mind, keep your mastering chain as simple as possible for the best result without you f***ing it up. Here's what I do. Glue compressor, make it loud preset, limiter with a release down and a quick look ahead, and then make sure I'm getting around -3 on the reduction of the limiter. This will be plenty loud enough to test out your tracks, play it into clubs, and send it to DJs. At the end of the day, yes, a master will make it sound better, but if you've made a good track, the DJ is still going to download it regardless if it's a bit too quiet. Funnily enough, when your favorite DJs are DJing, they have this thing in front of them called a DJ mixer, and they can quite easily adjust the track with EQs and a gain. If you're making any of these mistakes, don't worry, you're not alone. But once you fix them, your tracks will start to sound tight, clean, and club ready. Doing it by yourself though takes a bit of time, so I'd highly suggest out checking the first link in the bio, heading to Serotonin Studio, and watching the full beginner's Mixdown course. While you're there as well, you might as well have a look at some of the other courses we have. I put a lot of time and effort into these videos, and I know they're super valuable, and you can join a community of like-minded producers too. Anyways, I appreciate you watching all of this video. I hope you found it useful. Let me know in the comments below mixing mistakes that you find yourself falling for, and also if you could like, subscribe, share this to any friends. It really does make a difference to the channel. Peace out, have a good one, and I will see you in another video very soon. And of course, to those absolute legends that have stayed to the end, I will give my Mixdown cheat sheet as promised. Quick disclaimer, these are just guides. They are not gospel, they are not rules. This has gotten me in many trouble before because people take it too literally and their mixdowns don't sound as they want or they sound worse. The reasons why I can give these guides are specifically to you and for Sound and Minimal Deep Tech is because we're all trying to achieve a similar sort of sound and we're all using very similar samples. I go in this more depth in the beginner's Mixdown course, and to be honest, if you made it this far, you're probably picking it up anyways. So the reason I can give those guides is because we're all using the same sort of stuff and trying to get to the same sort of destination with our mix. So with that being said, on the next part of the video, you can pause this and write down my Mixdown cheat sheet. Thank you very much for watching, it means a lot to me, and I'll see you in another video very soon.